Hello, Culture Matters podcast. We have a exciting guest, never before seen unicorn today. Before I share who our guest is, here's a quote just for this episode. Never yield to force. Never yield to apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. Sir Winston Churchill. Our guest today is a good friend in the Culture Matters podcast. If you haven't heard him on the show, clearly you don't like me or this person. But if you like Churchill, if you like the idea of never yielding to force, never yielding to the apparent overwhelm of the might of the enemy, you're going to like Bill Mervin, who single-handedly stood like Poseidon in the seas, in the storm of the broker community, at the height of the success of all sorts of narratives, and stood firmly with his team with the one true vision to unify consumers to housing, to achieve the American dream, the American gift. Bill, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, good to see you, man. Always great to be here.
What was it about your view of the industry of money lending as relates to housing that you stood firm with your principles and your convictions of how to do the business in a time of transition? And I asked that for a lot of reasons, like leadership reasons, industry reasons. But what was it? What is it about you, or what's your reasoning that you were able to? And correct me if you think I'm off on this, but stay true to your foundational principles or convictions in a time of transition and change. Of the grass is always greener. That's my perception of the industry over the last few years.
Wow, that's a great question. So staying firm with your convictions. I don't know. I guess there's a couple pieces there. For me personally, I'll admit that earlier in life, right, I was the underachiever, right? I was the person in school that was, content to get, some A's and some C's, but B's, B pluses and skate by, right? I was the guy, I wound up winning the states in wrestling my junior year, but I was in a private school where it wasn't, the public school competition. And some of the guys that I wrestled with in youth sports, one guy went into the Olympics, I mean, NCAA champions. And so, for me, even though I did well, it was, I still never really applied myself. Right. And so, in coming with that whole mindset, right, of just accepting mediocrity or, doing what you need to get, good enough type of a mentality. Along with that, I would also argue, inherent with that type of or often accompanying that type of an attitude, is probably more precise, is just excuses, finger pointing, right? Just a lack of accountability. And so I just got to a place in my life, sometime, I don't know exactly, or if it happened over a period of time, but I feel like it was more of a switch that went on where I just got to a place in life where that was either who I was going to be, or I was going to change who I was and how I thought about things, right? With my work ethic and accountability and things like that. And so, I'm an all or nothing type of person. The switch is either on or off with me. And so I've long considered working on this. I've kind of got some notes on even a book one day of the 20% rule, right? It's like, if I need to go up to this line to get to something, I need to go 20% past, and I need to drive all the way through 20% past that goal, because otherwise I'll give myself too much wiggle room, right, to negotiate with myself. So it just had to come to a mindset of just negotiating with myself. So I guess a long route way to get to saying that, I think accepting accountability is a big deal to me. And I just don't have a lot of tolerance for folks that, it's always somebody else's problem, right? It's always somebody else's mistake. The reason their business is down is their company, or it's their business model, or it's the market. Like, pull up your big boy pants, and get to work. And I would argue that during times of turmoil, that it's the most critical, right? It's like the most critical time to exhibit those characteristics. So one, I think, is just kind of this mindset that I've adopted. I didn't always have, but I've adopted, some would say radical accountability. Not that I've got it perfect, but certainly in situations like this. And sure, could you be at some place that might not be in a position to support you? Sure. But I just think that, right now people are looking for the easy way out or excuses, and it prevents them, I think stunts their long-term growth, because it prevents them from looking inward to what they need to be doing different or what they need to be changing. And the other part of it, just about just principles in general. I just think that, the old saying, right? Batten down the hatches, right? During times of turmoil like this is when you need to like stick to your principles and stick to what you stand for, if you will, right? And I just think the rest is the distraction, right? And so that's really been a big part of my approach to this. If you're talking about the current real estate and mortgage lending market, that's really been my mindset. These are the times. There's times, on smoother seas to kind of assess and to determine, where you're tracking. Right now, it's just plowing forward.
What's been your take over the last handful of years of the industry of mortgage, the culture?
There hasn't, the culture. I think that, it's going to use,
I'm trying to get you the popularity award.
I think that it's been a bit of a, somehow I want to work the word orgy into this, but that's yeah, listen, it's been great times in the business, right? And so because of great times, it's attracted a lot of the business has always attracted a lot of individuals, first of all, that come in thinking it's going to be easy money, or thinking that, I don't know, they think I guess think it's going to be easy money, perhaps, but in general, the last few years has just sucked in even more of those types of individuals, and those types of individuals were able to fly, under the radar, so to speak, or we're not exposed, because of the market conditions. And of course, I'm thinking now of the Buffett quote, right, of the tide going out, and we're now seeing, and we've been seeing, who's wearing their bathing suit, right? And unfortunately, for our eyes, and the consumers, not too many folks are wearing their bathing suit right now. So, I think it's just been this, it's already just a kind of, mavericky type of, hodgepodge of different. There's a lot of folks that are there for the right reasons, but it tracks in all of these players, and none of them are all that don't have some don't have, many don't have, the best ethics. I don't want to paint the whole industry that way as a brush, because some of the best folks I know are in our industry, but and there's been more of that, right? And so I think that it all happens at the detriment of the consumer. And so in a strange way, perhaps, I'm an optimist who likes to find the best in things, even in tough times, but I in some ways welcome this purge, right? The sooner that these folks go back to, with no disrespect to those industries, but selling cars or doing whatever they were doing before this, I think the better we're all going to be. Most importantly, the consumer.
What are some of the pros to the consumer of your model? Not your business plan, but the model by which you're functioning as a
team.
As
Yeah,
a
I don't
business
want this to be too much of
person.
I know we touched on this last time, but my model, I guess, in short, if I had to do my
Well,
best.
let me be more
Yeah,
specific.
yeah,
If
please.
we were to distinguish between someone that is representing as a broker versus someone that's representing as some form of a retail distribution,
I
what would
think
you say are the pros on the latter?
I don't think there's a, I don't, I don't think that there's I don't think I am of the mindset that there is no distinguishable difference, personally. I do not think that there's anything inherently better or worse about either of those models. I think there's particular aspects of each of those models that will be a better fit for the individual operator. But as it relates to the consumer, I'm a strong believer that the operator, the individual or individuals on a team are far more important to the experience and what's getting delivered to the consumer. And we can dive into this as much as you
Yeah,
like.
this is the gold right here. I mean,
Yeah.
why?
Why? Because at the end of the day, now, okay, are there some, okay, are there some retail models where you're in a strictly loan office or corporate model and you have no control over your margins, and therefore you have a bunch of margin baked into the loan that is going to middle management that provides nothing for either the operator or the consumer? Yes. Right? Are there mortgage brokers who, in pursuit of autonomy and perceived autonomy or perhaps autonomy, and to perhaps in some cases ego, say that they're running their own business, ultimately running a broker model where there's many things that the company and a good leader within that company can provide that's ultimately going to be better for the consumer and better for that individual operator? Yes, right. And so I think there could be certain things that could, in cases, I mean, I go onto some of these mortgage groups in Facebook, right? And all of these questions that are getting answered, sometimes retroactively with files that are in process of like, oh, I didn't know you could do this. I didn't do that. Well, sure. Where's the person within your company or who is your branch manager that's teaching you these things so that clients haven't spent $1,000 for an appraisal, that the client has been drug around to 40 or 50 properties over the last 4 months making offers, only to find out that you didn't know how to do your job, but because you wanted to call yourself an independent operator, you're on your own on an island and don't have anybody helping you with these things. Right. So I think there's arguments on both sides, but I think a good when you're talking about a transparent retail model, which is the one I'm in, it's on a P&L. This idea that inherently pricing is better with brokers, I reject it, because we're all going to the same set of aggregators, right? And then a retail model, there's a certain amount that's going to get taken out for the retail. But then those things that are getting taken out ultimately have to be done by brokers, right? Whether it's regulatory, licensing, HR, payroll, marketing, what have you. And so at the end of the day, it's just, do you want to keep that slice and manage those things, or in a model where it's transparent and you know what you're paying for those items, do you feel you're better suited in the way that I look at it as outsourcing those items to focus on the aspects of the business that I feel that I'm best at. And that's just where I choose to be. But there's certain times in certain places where I can't say that it would never be the best model for me, but in this time and place, it's not. And so I don't find it inherent. I don't buy that one is better than the other.
Where do you think that idea came from?
For me,
No, that one could be better than the other.
the warped minds of, I mean,
This is like the soft white underbelly of the mortgage.
yeah, I mean,
This
I
is
think
good. Where is this idea?
personally,
What's
I
attractive
would,
about
well,
this?
I think the idea has been hyped up by certain individuals within the industry who have a benefit in hyping it up. I'll say that. I'll just say that. And I don't know if I'll make some whatever. I don't care. But I think it's been hyped up. There's certain
Who
certain
could
people,
possibly benefit?
individuals that either individuals that okay. I mean, I think that certain channels are stronger the more people that they attract, and then whether it's products and services, whether it's recruiting within that, within those channels, whether it's getting incentives from certain wholesalers if you're on the broker side, or and you again, I don't want this to make this all just because I'm on the retail side. There's all sorts of benefits that somebody could derive by hyping up one channel versus the other, and I don't want to get too far off of this if you want to keep this going, but I will add that, I think that this is a massive distraction. You've heard me say this before, from the real battle that's going on within the mortgage business, which is educators, advisors, right? Local individuals that know how to guide consumers through the largest transaction of their life, add values to the other market participants like the real estate agents and financial advisors who are in many cases connecting with these individuals, versus the online and the discounters who want to turn our business into Uber or Airbnb, right? Or whatever, fill in the blank. And that ultimately it creates this infighting between some of the better players in the industry that prevents us from educating the consumers away from the folks that want to just, have you complete an online application and get some guy in the Midwest sitting in a cube to just check what's your credit, what's your income, what's your assets. Here's your pre-approval letter, a pat on the back. Let me know when you find a house. That's who we need to be coming together against, or, if there's going to be a fight or any sort of infighting within the industry, not whether or not we, sell to one particular aggregator as a retail or a broker, a wholesaler. I don't buy it.
Is the industry going in that direction where technology could replace?
Is the industry going in that direction? Well, I think the world is going in that direction, and I think it's incumbent upon the leaders within the industry. I mean, this isn't like a market niche for me. Like I don't want to seem overly dramatic, but I get up in the morning, and what motivates me, besides taking care of my family, is the fact that I believe that the style of business that we do is the best for the consumers and the other individuals within our industry by a wide margin. And so I fight every day to for that position, right? And so are we going to be more technologically driven, AI and all of these things? Of course. The question is, are we going to be humans doing the type of business I'm talking about, assisted by technology? Or are we going to be technology doing the type of business? I'll just call them out, better.com, who's had just a massive, you've seen their rise and fall if you pay the business, right? Are we going to be technology supported by humans, or are we going to be humans supported by technology, right? That's the battle for our industry, not broker versus banker, right? Humans supported by technology, or technology supported by humans. So of course there's going to be more of those things. The question is, who wins or to what extent they win. I mean, nobody's going to get eliminated, of course.
Are you running for office?
I am not. I have no interest in running for office.
That was like, it's not what you could do for your industry. Yeah. It's what your industry can do for you.
But yeah, well, no, the other way around, but
yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean, and like I said, I don't want to overdo it. I mean, I get motivated to get up and to make money and to provide for my family and create legacy for my family. But
can someone still make money in the mortgage business?
Let's hope, because I'll have to leave if I can't. So, no, I mean, of course you can. I mean, right now, you're going to make a lot less, right? Depends on when you got in. We talked last time. I think now for an individual with low overhead and the right attitude and a lot of momentum, I think it's a great time to get into the business.
How rich is too rich?
Market share is getting, that's a great question, Jay. The market share is getting market share is getting gobbled up right now, right? If you're the average, I think I haven't seen the numbers in a while. I think the average, lender, and similar with real estate agents, was like late 50s, right? If you've been in this business, which let's face it, it can grind on you, right? And especially if you're not super passionate about it, it'll grind on you even more, right? It's a stressful industry to be in. And you've been in this industry grinding for 10, 20, 30 years, and you're in your late 50s, early 60s, and you just had a windfall from the last, 2021. And now you're in this market. You know how many NMLS licenses aren't getting renewed? Like, these folks are heading out. So, and then what was it? Was it you or was it somebody? No, I don't know if it was you, but I was watching something recently. You're either gonna fight, flight, or freeze, right? Those are the three: fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah, fight.
Right. There's a lot that are flight, leaving the business. Many are frozen. They're doing exactly what they're doing, and they're scared and they're complaining, or they're jumping around to companies because the grass is greener, or jumping around business models because the grass is greener. And I think the winners are going to fight, and they're going to pivot, and they're going to use this as an opportunity to improve their value proposition, improve their deliverables, their systems of what they're doing, increase their activity, um, and um, and they're going to win when the dust settles.
Now, when was the first time that you invested into coaching?
2015.
And what was the inspiration?
I went out to a mastermind conference, and I saw a coach up on stage that was just he talked about work-life balance and things like that. And not work-life balance specifically, but just about, how to get better in the business, and also, have a life. And at the time I was just grinding. I still do, but I don't know, man. I just to me, investing in myself has always been, once I made that mental shift that I told you in the early 20s and 30s, like investing in myself and studying myself. Like I've taken I never took any classes on, financial literacy and, financial markets. I just have always wanted to soak that stuff up like a sponge. And so, and another thing, I don't know where I picked it up along the way, but different companies, even before mortgages, when I would go work somewhere, I would, try to find who was the best at what I wanted to do. And I would ask to take them out to lunch, and I would ask to pick their brain. So the idea of constantly surrounding yourself by winners and people that were already doing what you wanted to be doing, and investing in myself, just always, just seemed like a natural fit. And I figured, that even though I've told you before in previous podcasts, I invested out in coaching ahead of where I was really at, and just believed that I would fill those shoes if I, stuck with it.
What is the actual return on that? And is it foolhardy to do it in crisis, in times of crisis?
I think that you could argue that, is it foolhardy to do it in times in crisis? I mean, that's going to be a very personal decision based on exactly how much your income is down and exactly how much overhead you have. I would say that notwithstanding those external variables, that these would be the best times to do it for the same reasons I mentioned. It'd be a great time for somebody else to get into the business. 2020, 2021, you did not have a lot of time to think and implement, right? You don't have a lot of time to think about your business, right? You don't have a lot of time to implement and execute changes, right? You don't have that problem right now. So if you're unconstrained by your budget, then I think it would be a tremendous time to invest in it.
Where was your business in 2015 versus in 2020, 2019, or even 2019? Be better, I think.
Yeah, 2019.
2020 was like,
well, I'm trying to even think where my business was back at that point in time.
Like if you contrasted the two, 2014 to 2019, was it
Well,
night
I
and
would
day?
say, well, 2014, because that was really when I was getting back into branching, 13, 14. I would say that, my business is probably up, like from a volume standpoint, probably 250 to 300%. And they'll go to 19, and then I'm probably still double where I was this year, in the year that the market's down 60%, right? Or whatever the heck it's down, a lot.
Wow.
And then I would argue that I would also put out there that I wasn't a one-man show. I mean, I had some team with me, but I made up even back then through just hard work, right? So I would just, my idea of a vacation back then was, my wife would drive and I would take applications on a napkin while we're heading to vacation. And then I would be in a hotel room doing work while my family was out, feeling good that I took my family somewhere nice. And so, I've been able to scale my business while putting systems in place and putting other individuals in place and building them up, right? To give myself and give all of us a better chance for success, and give our and give my clients a better experience. And so it isn't it isn't solely on the numbers, although they're important, right? Especially when you're making a financial investment. But we've grown in so many ways as a result of that coaching journey.
What could you offer someone that works with you as a mentee?
Well, what I think that I offer, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I think knowing, I think, like I said, I feel like from a standpoint, I know everything from the front to the back of the mortgage business, all the way from the processing side to the underwriting, the secondary, post closing. And I think that the more that you have mastery of the entire process, the better that makes you. I think so many folks come in that are naturally gifted salespeople, and they think that they're just going to be, gifted in that part of the business, and then they run into issues later because they've got gaps in how the entire process works. So I would argue that from underwriting to how the secondary market works and these various things, that I feel like I know that as good as anybody that would likely be in a position to mentee a new person coming in. And I think just I have a model that's set up to be able to show others how to do it, right? Because I'm not a one-man show, spending all of my time working, doing every aspect of the business, is because we've broken it up in the way that we have, that I've shared in previous podcasts. So we've got each person in a role doing their thing. It really creates the space for me to be able to show others and really get in under the hood with them and show them how we've done it. And I would say, additionally, that I think we've just the learning from the mistakes that we've made, right? I've invested into this coaching, so some of these things I've learned on my own through making mistakes, and some of it I've learned through a lot of other great folks around me. So if you don't have the time or money or contacts to be able to go out and invest the way that I did in coaching, I think that I offer that. I've taken all of that in the last 8 or 9 years and packaged it up in a way that allows me to kind of distill that down for people that are on our team and would join our team.
People listening want to work for or with you. How do they get your attention if they're reaching out to you? What would say to you, oh, maybe we'll take this person on?
I mean, for me, I mean, you have to have a certain baseline amount of numbers, right? Because we're not in a position, we're not going to bring in a total project, and if you don't have any sort of business. But I would say that our target would be individuals that are doing, I would say, I'm going to try to adjust it for this market, right? But before this market hit, I would say individuals doing 6 to 8 units who maybe have touched up at 10 and then hit that natural ceiling that loan officers hit, that then they get stuck in their pipeline when their pipeline goes up, and then their sales activities go down, and then they go down and they have trouble. That 100 to 120 a year is a tough mark to break through. So those individuals, or individuals doing a little bit more than that, who are also doing it as a one-man show, or their team is a loan officer assistant who they might have on their own, or they might split with other people, and feel like, I'm doing 120, 150 units a year in a normal market. Now you could adjust that, and now I'd say 3 to 5, right? Or somebody that's hitting 8 to 10, but and is doing it, but their hair's on fire and they feel like they're going to burn out of the business, right? Because I've been able to step back to 40-hour work weeks. I mean, sometimes I'll work harder, but I'm able to get home with my family and do those things and still maintain a solid, consistent business. And it's been because of these things that we have in place, and that's taken a lot of trial and error and a lot of investment in the coaching. And so those would really be the target. So the main thing would be the attitude, right? I mean, if you're looking for somebody that's going to come and going to give you a big sign-on bonus, if you're looking for somebody who's going to come and promise you the world about a bunch of bells and whistles, right? Like I want somebody that really says, I see what you guys are doing, and that's what I want, right? I want to scale my business with other folks around me. I want you to kind of show me if they're attracted to the types of ways our advisory approach and the things that we're doing. So I would think it's somebody that really has, that I discern has a desirability to run that type of a business. That's far more important than any particular any particular one attribute. Is just the right attitude.
And you think you're going to stay in the business long enough to help these people?
Man, if I don't stay in the business, God help me, because that's somebody just posted on Facebook today something and said something like if your current business doesn't work out, what's your plan B? And of course my response was, what's a plan B? What is a plan B? And of course, one of my early business foray into business book and kind of my journey of kind of before I did coaching, I was, I did my coaching at Barnes and Noble, and
Good place.
with books. And of course, one of the first stories for one of the first business books I read, of course, was Think and Grow Rich. And after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then the last quote in Rich Dad Poor Dad, of course, is Think and Grow Rich. And that's where I kind of understood that so much of that philosophy goes back to Think and Grow Rich. And of course, there's the Cortez, I believe it is, and burning your boats, right? And I have lived and breathed. And if I don't know if I should share it for your listeners who don't know, but I'll probably butcher it, so you can probably correct me. But these were Spanish explorers. They wanted to go to the New World. There's supposed to be this massive treasure over there. And the story goes that he got them up onto the shore, and he had the scouts go back and burn all of their boats. And then, of course, he directed all of his people to look back at the boats that were burning, and essentially told them that the only way that they were going to get home is by conquering these folks, getting the treasure, and taking their boats back. And so I've lived by that mindset. So I'll be here. Yeah. If there's still a mortgage business around, I'll be here.